guys, it's Ariana. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're going to be reading some more scary stories. So we are doing an update on the Happy the Clown. So obviously I have done some creepy clown makeup. I was inspired by it, so mine isn't the best, but I'm doing this very quickly at night because I want to get this video up. It is already 8:45 and I haven't started filming. I haven't edited yet, so this is going to be a late video again, but I had to do this makeup for the finale of Happy the Clown because I'm very excited to continue reading it. So it is Thanksgiving in Canada right now, so that is why this video is going up so late. It is literally Sunday night. It is day 8 of 31 days of Halloween, and this makeup look took like an hour, and it's not the best, but it's still creepy. It fits the theme, and I'm very excited to continue reading. So, like I said, this is from the No Sleep section. It is from the Reddit author, Nicholas Caraco, and it is, I recently started working at a fast food restaurant and something weird happened during the night shift. By the time I got back to Happy Burger, Pitty was mopping up the grimy floor. What happened? He asked, his mop dripping dirty water. Rick happened. He fucking followed me and wouldn't let me talk to George. Said I was stalking his ex-employee. It took Pitty a while to process that sentence. Hold on. What? Yeah, but how did he even know you were... I don't know. And why would he care if... I don't know. None of it made any fucking sense. But I knew one thing. He's involved. And he doesn't want me to talk to George. Shit. So what are we gonna do? I took a deep breath. I'm gonna talk to George anyway. The next morning, Pitty agreed to meet me at my apartment. I told him we'd ride to George's place together and that I'd even loop the long way around to make sure Rick wasn't following. Then, as an extra safety precaution, I had us park 3 blocks away and wear sunglasses and a baseball hat as we walked over to the building. I feel like an FBI agent, Pitty grinned. So, you ever see that one movie where Keanu Reeves is an FBI agent and then he's like, I am an FBI agent, dude. I forget the title, but you know what I'm talking about, right? I had no idea what he was rambling about. I just shrugged and laughed. It's funny, that's when I realized I was really growing to like Pitty. He provided so much needed lightness to these dark times. It still makes me physically ill to think about what eventually happened to him. George's apartment was up on the 4th floor. I tried not to breathe in too deeply as we walked down the hallway and across the yellow, stained carpet that smelled like urine. Once we were at an apartment number 409, Pitty gestured to me, "Go ahead, bro. This is all you." I knocked loudly 3 times. We waited, and then we knocked again. There was no answer. Call him, I suggested. Pitty took out his phone, dialed, then simply shook his head. His phone's off, just like before. Pitty turned to walk down the hall, but I didn't budge. Let's go, he said. He's not here. I looked around to make sure no one was watching. I pulled out a paperclip from my pocket that I had stuffed in there to use just in case the situation happened. Keep an eye out for me, just a sec. I told Pitty as I started to pick the lock. Thankfully, the knob was cheap and easy to pick. Finally, the door clicked open. Pitty stared at me, jaw opened, impressed. Come on, I said, leading the way inside. Where'd you learn how to do that? Asked Pitty, as we both stepped into George's shitty apartment. My kid brother used to lock himself in his room a lot and refused to come out. I'd have to pick the lock of the door almost every day. Why would he do that? I don't know, I responded. Guess he liked feeling the safety. Safety, right. What I would give for that these days. Anyway, the inside of George's place was a total mess. There was food wrappers everywhere, trash overflowing from the cans, as well as Happy Burger bags all over the floor. But the dude I needed to talk to was nowhere to be found. Well, at least he's not dead, mumbled Pitty. How do you know that? Well, because we'd smell his body, right? Unless someone took the body, I said. We both shared a terrified look for a moment. That's around the time I took another step and tripped over something. At first, I thought it was more garbage, but when I looked down, it looked black and hard. It was a VHS tape. I picked it up and looked at the label. George, or someone had scribbled, Happy Burger 96. Check it out, I said, showing Pitty the tape. He responded that we should leave. I hadn't come this far just to ditch our first and only clue. You really gotta stop being such a baby, Pitty. We went back to my place and we popped in the tape. If you're wondering why I had a VCR, it's because I like watching old movies. It's a superior medium, so sue me. The static consumed my TV, and Pitty already looked like he was going to pee himself. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't creeped out. Why did George have this recorded? The first thing we heard was music, upbeat and fun stuff over total darkness, before Happy finally appeared on the screen. Talk about a jump scare. Hiya, kids, he said into the camera with way too much energy. Are you ready to get happy? Happy gave a great big wave at the camera before the commercial cut to him inside the restaurant, surrounded by tiny children begging for burgers. "We want Happy Burgers," they all shrieked. "Yeah, then how's about this?" Happy snapped his fingers in a Via movie magic, and all of the kids were now holding big, juicy burgers. They proceeded to take huge bites like they hadn't in years. It was weird, to say the least. "This is so fucking strange," said Pitty. "I don't understand why he has this." Little did I know, things were about to get even more confusing. "Holy golly, we forgot to invite all my friends," Happy screamed on the screen. Suddenly, we were introduced to even more mascots. The worst part, they were even weirder and more creepy than the fucking clown. "Well, looky here, it's Burger Bob," yelled Happy as his first friend stumbled on screen. He was a grown man wearing a burger costume, but the burger did not look appetizing. It made me want to throw up, to tell you the truth. The rubbery bun was gross, discolored, and yellow, and the sauce that dripped down from its patty was a dirt brown and looked like, well, I'd rather just not say. "It's me, Burger Bob," said the talking sandwich, "but we can't forget about the others. Kids meet Scowler and Tree Taker." The kid actors all watched intently as the two more mascots appeared inside the restaurant. My eyes first fluttered towards the Tree Talker, probably because he was so tall and so strange. His outfit consisted of a plastic tree trunk and a million dangly, branchy limbs that seemed deliberately designed in order to be easily grabbed by children. "I'm the Tree Taker," he yelled with a booming voice, "and I'll take any kids who don't finish their food, so eat up." The kids stuffed the food into their mouths faster. "Please don't take us away, Tree Taker," one even cried. "Then eat! Yum, yum, yum!" It was strange. For a moment, it almost seemed to me like someone was just off the screen forcing the kids to do this. Or were they just really good child actors? Regardless, I seriously thought I might be sick. Lucky for us, they saved the worst mascot for last. "Oh, Jesus," Pitty audibly wailed at the final character. Scowler was, well, I'm not really sure what he was. The best way I could describe him was a big pink blob, wearing a sinister curve in the shape of a permanent frown. "Everyone watch out," yelled Happy. "It's Scowler!" The kids all screamed a piercing scream as the pink blob chased them around the restaurant. Their high-pitched voices all warped and warbled as the tape glitched out a bit. The next bit of the commercial was perhaps the weirdest. There was no dialogue. Scowler just chased the kids around the place for a solid 60 seconds. And once again, these kids were either giving the best performance of a lifetime or they were really terrified for their lives. I'm not even exaggerating when I say the entire commercial was one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life. Everything about it was wrong. My first honest thought was that I should really just call the police, but then I realized how incompletely sane I'd sound if I explained my situation. "Okay, I can't do this anymore," groaned Pitty, now physically looking away from the TV. I finally reached forward and stopped the tape, then ejected it. Honestly, it must have been a full minute or two before we even said anything. "I'm so fucking confused. What does this all mean?" Pitty finally asked. "To be honest, I have no clue," I admitted. "But there's no way I'm going into work tonight." "Fuck it," agreed Pitty. "Me either." Later that night, I got like 10 missed calls from Rick after I didn't show up for my usual shift. I'm assuming Pitty got bombarded too, but I didn't care. There was no way I was going to go back to that place until I figured out what the fuck was going on. Since Pitty had left, I'd refused to watch the tape, mostly because the idea of doing so alone scared me so much, but eventually, I decided if I was going to uncover this mystery, I should study the commercial in its entirety once more, this time taking notes. After all, something about this tape was important to George. Therefore, it was important to me. And God, there was also this gaping question of where the fuck George was. I was about halfway through the rewatch when my phone started buzzing. At first, I thought it was Rick. Instead, the caller ID showed Pitty. I answered and I said, "What's up? Is Rick blowing up your phone too?" I could hear Pitty breathing on the other end of the line, and he didn't respond at first. "Are you there?" "Yes," he whispered, "I'm here." I immediately sat up, sensing something was wrong. "Are you okay? What is it?" He's here, Matt." The poor guy's voice was shaking and he sounded like he was gonna cry. "Who's there? Happy?" I stood up and started pacing around my room. "No," Pitty continued, his voice now getting so soft and quiet I could barely understand him. "It's Scowler. He's staring right at me, and I'm terrified. Matt, I can't move." My heart started going crazy in my chest. "Please help me," Pitty pleaded, now starting to cry. "Get out of there now," I screamed. "I can't," he sobbed. "He won't let me." My mind raced. What do I do? "Text me your address. I'll come right over," I responded frantically as I jumped up and grabbed my keys. "Pitty, Can you do that for me? No response. The last thing I heard was a terrible scream before the line cut off. And that was the first update. Okay, let's go to the second one, because holy shit, this just got fucking crazy. What on earth is happening? I sat in my car waiting for Pity to text me his address. It was an odd feeling, I'll admit, to possess such a deep sense of urgency, yet also so much helplessness. I so desperately wanted to save my friend, but I didn't know where I needed to go. After what felt like forever, my phone finally buzzed. It was a text from Pity. No words, just a GPS pin drop. I turned on my car and I slammed on the gas pedal. As I pulled into Pity's driveway, I wondered how he could afford to live in an actual house off his minimum wage job. Then again, I figured he could have inherited the place from a dead grandma or something. But none of that was of immediate importance. I sprinted up the front steps and pounded on the door. Pity, open up! There was no answer. I peered through the windows. All the lights were off and it seemed like no one was even home. I tried the doorknob, which was locked, then ran around the side of the house where I found a bathroom window slightly cracked open. It was a tight fit, but I finally was able to squeeze my way through. The moment I fell through and tumbled onto the tile floor is when it hit me. I was now alone in a stranger's house, and there was no telling what awaited for me in the next room. Pity? Are you here? Hello? I was slipping light switches on one by one as I made my way through an unfamiliar space. Pity's house was pretty plain, with not much on the walls in terms of decorations. I almost started to wonder if I was in the wrong place entirely. Then I checked the GPS ping again, which confirmed that I was not only in the right spot, but that I was almost directly on top of Pity's phone. In other words, I was very fucking close. I carefully inspected the bedroom, kitchen, guest bathroom, and living room. They were all empty. Until I finally settled on one final door in the hallway that I hadn't opened yet. It was a closet. I checked my phone again. The small blue dot told me that Pity's phone, and hopefully the man himself, were in there. I knocked on the door. Pity? Are you there? It's me. I'm gonna open the door. I slowly turned the knob and opened the door, bracing myself for something terrible. And that's when I saw him. Pity was curled up in the corner of the closet. A frozen smile permanently etched on his face. His skin was pale, and I could see the blue veins through the bulge on his neck. Pity? I grabbed him and pulled him out of the dark, cramped space. He was alive, awake, but something was wrong. His face, and he kept mumbling. I called 911 and I stayed by his side until help showed up. I sat around all night in the waiting room of the hospital for the doctors to give me an update on my coworker's condition. At one point, I asked if they'd been in touch with any of his family. Doesn't seem like he has any, one of the nurses said. No immediate ones, at least. Somehow that made me feel even more crappy for the guy. Since I wasn't family myself, I was told I couldn't visit Pity until he was more stable condition. But I couldn't go home. Not until I knew he was all right. So I remained there in the waiting room, hour after hour, nodding off here and there. At one point, I woke up to the flickering and flashing of an overhead light in the room. At first, I thought nothing of it. I assumed maybe that was normal since the building was using a heap of electricity. But once they flickered again and stayed off for a bit too long, that's when I got worried. I sat up in my seat and I looked around. A clock told me it was now almost 4 a.m. I was literally now the only person in the waiting room. I looked over at the front desk, figuring it was time I should ask for another update, but it seemed the receptionist had temporarily stepped away from her station. That's around the time when the tiny TV set in the waiting room was overcome with loud static, like the connection had gone bad. Then the screen went blue, as if someone had inserted a VHS tape, though there was no VCR built into this device. What I saw next convinced me that I was still dreaming. It was another Happy Burger commercial from decades past, though this one was different. Happy and his friend paraded down the hallway of a hospital that looked eerily similar to the one that I was currently inside of, and they were discussing how their food was the power to make kids happy again. Then suddenly, and without warning, the footage cut to Pity's room, where I saw my friend, barely conscious and surrounded by Happy, Scowler, and the Tree Taker. There's nothing quite like Happy Burger to make you feel better. Ain't that right, kiddo? Happy asked. Pity simply shrugged uncomfortably, as if he was just confused as to how or why he was suddenly inside of a commercial. My heart dropped and I could suddenly feel a thumping in my neck. No, was all I could say to myself as I watched the TV, still in disbelief. I couldn't take it anymore. I got up and I burst through the nearest door and sprinted down the hallway. I heard the nurse yell for me, but I didn't care. I had to make sure he was okay. I ran all the way down to the corridor and around the corner and eventually found my way to room 309, which is where they told me Pitty was being treated. I was terrified of going inside that room, but I knew I had to face my fears. I rounded the corner, but much to my shock, Happy, Scowler, and Tree Taker were no longer there. Had I dreamed that commercial? It felt so real. Pitty, however, was awake. He looked up at me with a blank look on his face. I knew he wouldn't be 100% recovered, but something was still wrong with him. He just didn't seem like himself. "Are you okay?" I asked. He just stared at me. "Pitty?" I asked again. "Can you hear me? Just tell me you're okay. I need to know that you're okay. Why won't you say anything?" He finally said yes, so quietly that I could barely hear him. "I think everything's going to be fine now." "You do?" He nodded. He said, "I totally feel happy." If that was happy, then I've never wanted to experience joy again. He didn't say much else after that. Eventually, one of the nurses found me in the room and told me I had to leave, so I did. I was in bed by 5, which meant the sun was coming up before I could even close my eyes. I tried to sleep, but of course, I couldn't. After a couple of hours of rolling around and shifting uncomfortably in my sheets, I figured that there was one more person I needed to pay a visit in order to get the answers I so desperately wanted. Sometime around 10, when I knew Happy Burger would just be opening for breakfast, I got in my car and I drove down to the restaurant. I marched inside and headed straight into Rick's office, only to find my boss sitting at his desk, as if he'd been waiting for this very moment. "Pitty," I started to say, and his response was, "I know. Close the door. It's time for us to have a chat." Rick told me everything, and I listened carefully to every word. Back when I first bought this restaurant, I enlisted in the help of a small production company. They said that they could help me make a commercial for cheap. We tried to come at it with a few different angles, but it just wasn't working. It felt so forced and awkward. That's when one of the directors suggested we come up with a mascot. "Happy," I said. Rick nodded as he went on. "It was supposed to be cute." That's what he said. Just some funny little clown to help us sell the idea that we were in a fun place to eat. So a week later, we showed up and the guys got all these other outfits that he claimed were designed by some costume designer friend of his. There was Happy, of course, who wanted to make kids happy by giving them burgers, then some giant blob named Scowler, who wanted to steal away the burgers, and even some Tree, who would take the kids away if they didn't finish their food. I pictured those three in my head as I remembered what I saw on the tape, their awful faces. "Then what happened?" I prompted. "We ran the ad, and at first it worked. More people were coming in than ever, but that's when we started getting the reports." "What reports?" Rick swallowed before he went on, as if his throat was suddenly dry as a desert. "Children were getting freaked out, which wasn't surprising. Even I thought the costumes were kind of creepy, but that wasn't all. The kids were claiming Happy and Scowler and the Tree were visiting them in their dreams. Apparently, these dreams were so real, they were refusing to go to sleep. One parent found their 6-year-old screaming, the tree taker," and he was completely tangled up in his bed sheets. He almost suffocated. "Jesus," I whispered. So we cut the ad, and that was that, or so we thought. Rick shook his head. Then a few years back, one of my night shift workers started saying he saw a clown roaming the kitchen after hours. A clown named Happy. I figured it's someone who somehow got an old copy of the discontinued commercial playing a prank on us. A few days later, my employee calls me and starts crying, saying Happy won't let him stop eating. "I can't finish my burger," he said. "Now they're gonna take me." I figured the guy was drunk or something, and the next morning, I hear that he was found dead in his house. They said he accidentally choked while eating. I knew deep down something was wrong. "So you replaced him," I said. "I had to," Rick claimed. "I was running a business." And then what happened? It just kept repeating the cycle. Until you. I took this all in. I mean, there were some answers, but I also had more questions. Questions that neither I nor Rick would ever know the answer to. And that alone was enough to drive me crazy. I'd go to the cops, but no one would believe me. I told Rick that this was all his fault, that he let this happen, that he almost killed Pitty, and I called him a monster. "I didn't know what else to do," Rick said. I stared at my boss for a long moment before I finally said, "I quit." Then I walked out of the restaurant and I never went back. A few weeks later, I drove by Happy Burger and was absolutely shocked to find that Rick had shut the place down. I sat at the stop sign for a while, utterly grateful that no one else would ever have to go through what I went through. Eventually, a car honked at me and I kept driving. It wasn't long after that I got a call from the hospital saying Pitty had finally been cleared to go home. They warned me that he suffered some type of brain damage and that my friend would never be the same, but also that visiting him would probably make him happy, considering he had no family. I of course told him that I would visit, but being honest, I still haven't mustered up the courage to ever go over. And if you're wondering what happened to my whole financial situation, I'm in fact working a new job these days and I'm able to pay my bills. It's actually a telemarketing job, don't laugh at me, which is definitely lame and boring for the most part. But on the plus side, I get to sit in a brightly lit room with dozens of other people, and there's no night shift or burgers or Ricks in sight. Things have been pretty normal so far, other than a prank call I got the other day. It sounded like a man on the other line, though I couldn't hear him very well because the connection wasn't good. "Are you happy?" is what I'm pretty sure he said. "Yes," I responded. Like, what kind of question is that? "How happy?" the prankster said through crackling static. I then hung up, not wanting to waste any more of my time and thought thinking of it. During lunch that day, I was eating with Marlon, one of my new friends, in the break room. He had a burger delivered to him from a food delivery service. He shot me a weird look as I stared at the bag, watching him eat. "What is it?" he asked, mouth full. "Do you want some of my fries? They're just cold and soggy, though." "No thanks," I said. "Then why are you looking at me so strange?" "Nothing," I finally responded. I pushed my bag lunch aside. Suddenly, I had lost my appetite. That's the moment I decided that after work, I'd finally go and see Pity. He at least deserves this much. And that's how they ended the story. So the author did say that this is the final part, so there was just 4 parts, so that was the entire story. So I kind of wish we had more of like the creepy clown. It definitely did take a weird turn with like more of the other mascots. I am grateful that there wasn't any like graphic things. Like our other story that we're reading, that series, has a little bit too much graphic grossness in it for me, whereas this story is just kind of like really creepy. Mascots are like running amok. I don't even know what they're doing to people, but it's really creepy. But I do wish we had more of the Happy the Clown in the story and like less of like the other things. I do really want to find a really creepy clown story because clowns freak me the fuck out. But I do think that was a really creepy story and I'm glad that it's over and now I can go to bed knowing that I have the ending. And I kind of still have more questions though, because I'm curious if he actually does go and visit his friend Pity, because like, what's happening with Pity? What happened to Pity? I want to know more. But the author did say that this was the final. So I don't know if they're going to continue the story, but at the moment they are not. So I hope you guys enjoyed this story. I hope you guys are enjoying the fact that I am doing more of this series style on my channel. And I hope you guys are also enjoying 31 days straight of Halloween. So we are on day 8 of 31 days of Halloween. I hope you guys are enjoying this series. If you guys have any creepy stories you would like me to read, feel free to message me over Instagram or message me over email, and I will be definitely getting to your guys' personalized stories in the next video. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys did make it to the end of the video, leave me your, I guess, favorite clown emoji. I think there is only one clown emoji, but leave me a clown emoji in the description box down below if you guys made it to the end of the video to let me know that you guys made it to the end. If you guys did enjoy this makeup and you want to see a tutorial on how to do it, it's a very easy look. Please let me know in the comments down below and I would be happy to make you guys more tutorials. But it's really up to you guys if you guys want me to continue doing makeup on YouTube or just the stories, because it is a really saturated niche and I'm not entirely sure if my current audience that is now watching my channel would be interested in spooky Halloween makeup looks. So if you guys are interested in quick, easy looks for Halloween, please let me know in the comments down below and I would definitely be happy to film some. But thank you so much for watching this video and I will see you guys at the next one. Bye.